All right, guys, welcome back to another DBS podcast. I am Brendan and I'm here joined with Dylan. Today we are going to be talking about production and how we operate as a independent film company and how we are able to make all these movies with as quickly as you possibly can with our shoestring budget and we get them done on time and as efficiently as possible. So just bear with me today. I am basically losing my voice. We are heavy in pre-production on the next movie that we're doing. It is also Cannes Film Festival, so we are pitching all our movies. And my brain is quite smooth right now, so we are going to let Dylan do most of the talking. But as of right now, everything is really good with us. We have the number one found footage movie on Amazon, The Girl in Cabin 14. It's not Girl in Cabin 14. The Last Cabin is the highest grossing found footage movie in May and it has been doing absolutely incredible. So, everyone, thank you so much for your rentals, your downloads. If you haven't checked it out, it would mean the world to us. We are looking to get better with each film, but this one's doing absolutely fantastic. Which segues into how I met Dylan because it was with the original Girl in Cabin 13. So, Dylan, take the floor. Let us know how you basically became a member of DBS.
Okay, so I believe I can't remember the name of the website, but there was a casting call for a killer character on like Gray Pages or something weird like that. And my mom submitted my information for that role. Only Brendan didn't know it was my mom yet. Um, and he scheduled a meeting with me, and I missed the meeting. And luckily, the person that had the meeting after me also missed the meeting, and I was able to steal that spot, do the interview with him in the car, very unprofessionally, on the way to a vacation trip. And then he emailed with my mom a couple more times, and then I was on set for Girl in Cabin 13 as Masked Man number 3.
Yeah, and I'll give you a little story with Dylan is I usually don't give people a second chance. And this is like there's a couple of really weird coincidences, not only in just the businesses that I run, but with DBS history. And the person after Dylan, who was in the Masked Man, also missed his meeting. If that kid would have done it, I don't think we our paths would have crossed. And Dylan has become basically my right hand man on set, and I don't think DBS would be nearly as successful, or we even get any remotely any of this stuff done without Dylan's help. So that was just a stroke of luck. Usually, if you're an actor, if you're trying to work in this business, you have to get on your meetings. You have to be on time. Especially for me, when we stack all our meetings, if you're not there, sorry, brother, like you're just done. Especially for a masked man, where it's like you just need to be a body. Um, but already, like just going into it, the first time I met Dylan was if you remember in the Girl in Cabin 13, there's like that one running shot where I was chasing behind Stuart. And so he came out of the woods and he's out there and he's like, already I was like, this guy just has to stand there with a mask. And he's there, he's like chain smoking his cigarettes and everything. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Um, so tell me a little bit about Girl in Cabin 13, how you kind of like weaseled your way in by doing a whole bunch of different jobs up until basically we can go into the finale, which was the final scene in the house in Lockwood.
Okay, so yeah, with that, basically got on set. Nobody was there. I wasn't really sure if the production was legit or not. All I knew it was an Amazon movie, and then I got there and there were like two cars outside, and I was like, cool, I might get murdered, whatever. Went inside, nobody was home. This was also during COVID, so I'm like all masked up looking for anybody, and then ended up meeting Brent, the other masked man that we've worked with a bunch since then. We talked for a little bit. Then they came out of the woods, got to meet everybody, and throughout the 3 days I was there, I started putting myself into positions to try to help, and I ended up like melting a piece of equipment. We had a light cover that we had put on the lights outside, ended up melting without any of us realizing, kind of my fault. Um, but then apparently a couple years later, Stuart tells me that he was putting in a good word for me as well. I don't know how true that is, but I'll give him the credit for it. But uh, helped them out, stayed, helped clean on the last day. We had a bunch of stuff in the bathroom that needed to be cleaned, a
Bunch of
little
chicken.
bunch of chicken in the sink, or no, in the bathtub that was causing fake blood to come out of the kitchen sink. but I stayed as long as I could to help out with that before I had to go back to school because I was in college at the time. And then Brendan was like, "Oh, well, if we have pickups, I might hit you up. You won't need to do anything, but we might have some crew stuff for you to do." And it kind of went from there into Murder House.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's definitely something I recommend if you're on set or if you're in the film business, especially on an indie set. Everybody wears a bunch of hats. Um, and it was just we didn't have a production assistant on this set. It was my brother was in there, but he was doing a lot of editing. And it was myself. And so it was like you need somebody like that was too like I like going bare bones, that was too bare bones. And Dylan started to see the opportunity because he was only in a couple shots and he was helping move the lights, he was helping to do stuff. And it helped out a lot. Like I don't think that if you just would have went back to wherever you came from, and back to Full Sail or wherever, you're still in college, I don't think the movie would have got done, but you stayed and he was helping out. And Stuart noticed too. And Stuart did come up to me and said, "Hey, you should keep this kid because he wants to do a PA job or he wants to helping you out." And so I was like, okay. I was like, at that point, I was like, I don't know if we have any money or like what's going on, but it was helping out and we're getting everything done. And like that last day of Girl in Cabin 13 was crazy. We had all the special effects stuff. We had the scene where he gets smacked in the head. Chloe, God bless her, was like in a car accident a couple weeks before the shoot, and she was like, she ran to a washing machine and really hurt herself. Like there was a lot of
Fell
stuff
down the
going on.
stairs.
Fell
Yeah.
downstairs. Like there was a lot of stuff going on in this that was like, it took a long time to get going, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And he could stay up. Like the one thing is like Dylan can stay up. And like a lot of people say it's really easy to stay up. They can't do it. And I think that is like Dylan and Tegan can both, if we have to go 48 hours in a row, we can do it. And honestly, I don't think this Girl in Cabin 14 is 48 hours, but we had to be pushing 30 because I know we shot pretty much all day the last day. We drove home. I took a quick nap. I went to Party City to pick up a cop badge, and then we did pickups for the intro scene in the house in Oviedo. And that's when basically I was like, all right, dude, like you're on board. Like let's fucking go. So I remember we shared a claw at the end of that one, and I was like, all right,
Mm.
this is like legit. Um, so then talk me into or tell me about when you got casted in the Murder House.
So yeah, Murder House. It was kind of like Brennan came to me and was like, "Yeah, we got this other project coming. I kind of wrote you a character. Want you to look at the script. Let me know what you think." And I like looked at it, and it was like his understanding of who I was by that point, like the little shithead college student PA. And he gave that character like specific lines and stuff that he thought I would say, like the line where I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, "Oh man, I can't wait till I'm not working with these fuckers anymore and I'm doing my own thing." Like he written that and was like, "Yeah, don't even need you to audition. Like I know you could get this done. This is just you." But he's like, "I want you to do some of the PA stuff for this one, more so than the Girl in Cabin 13, where I was just moving lights. I was helping with script souping and some of the set decoration, the wall with the drywall and the graffiti and everything like that. Had to look up demon symbols, and then the amazing Latin that we had Tyler performing was researched by yours truly. So that one was an interesting one for the phone call on that one.
Yeah, I think that one, like we're still transitioning to, like I mean these were really low budget. Like even like now we're still really low budget, but like I mean Dylan was acting in these, and he's also doing the PA stuff. Um, but I mean they were getting smoother. I think that Murder House was smoother than it was with Girl in Cabin 13. And then we did Forest of Death. And Forest of Death was probably a jump up in ambition as far as like that project goes. And there's also you were a lead. So you went
Yeah.
from Murder House to lead. So tell me about that one.
Yeah, so he was like, "Well, we had you move up from mass man to supporting. Let's go ahead and see if we can put you in the lead role." Because at the time, I wasn't really sure if I was interested in acting or
Yeah, I just want to caveat this. Dylan said that he wanted to be an actor. So I'm like, okay, we'll,
Yeah.
we'll move you up. And I think it was like day one on Force of Death. You're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, so we got out there for Force of Death. Early in like Girl in Cabin 13, I had talked about how, I wanted to be an actor and everything like that. And then I don't think we ever talked about it again until that first day of Force of Death, where he was asking me to do some stuff for production side of things. And I was like, man, I'm like trying to learn my lines. And he was like, well, I thought you had said that this is what you wanted to do. And I was like, nah, man, I don't want to act. I'm done with acting. I gave up on that. And he was like, great, glad you're letting me know on day one of this shoot. But that one was interesting. The difference for that one, I was still kind of written similar to my existing personality, which made it a little bit easier than it would if I had taken on like a completely different kind of character. But the cast for that one was great. On-set vibes for that one were pretty fun. We got a little loopy out there because the Airbnb owner lived right next door, and he was a little cuckoo. But apart from that, it's pretty smooth, I feel like.
Yeah, the Force of Death, it was a huge step up just in because the thing with Murder House was we had all the van stuff that I could do at any time. This whole movie had to be done. And it was a long movie. I think it's like an hour 20 minutes. It was a long
Hmm.
movie. It's very complicated. And there's a lot of stuff in there. But I mean, we got it done. I remember the last day being like pretty gnarly. I think
Light.
we like the
No?
lights were coming up. Um, but I remember like having all the shots, and I think you or my brother was just like, "Whoa, dude, we have a lot left." I'm like, "It's all small little stuff. It's all small little stuff." But we got that one done. Force of Death is great. For the first time, um, we're getting pitches to make Force of Death too, which is kind of wild. Because I think you said that you were saying you rewatched Force of Death.
Oh
I
yeah,
haven't
I just
I
watched it
haven't
recently.
rewatched it, but I
It
know
might be
that
my favorite one.
Clown in the Cornfields get in the camp back a little bit. And that movie was campy Scooby Doo. Like Dylan's character was like the stoner guy.
Shaggy.
It was like Shaggy, the stoner guy. And then you had what's the two? Tyler and Chloe were
You
like
got the jock and not I don't want to say mean girl because she wasn't really mean, but like kind of popular girl kind of vibes out of
yeah.
them.
And so that one was like your typical campy movie. And it was a lot of fun to shoot. I don't know. I'm not a huge camp guy, but hey, maybe if it comes back, like I'll be down to do it. So
That
then
one's pretty
after
solid.
that, yeah, after that one wrapped, you're like, all right, I'm not doing acting anymore. Even though we put him in like smaller little roles, or he is like during the found footage stuff, he is the cameraman. Um, so let's talk horror in the forest because after Forced Death, this is when we really stepped up. Like now we're into the bigger budget range. This is an ambitious project. We had a lot of people going in there. Um, did you help on pre-production with this one?
Yeah, I helped with pre-production on Forced to Death as well, but I didn't really help too much on production other than like moving lights and setting up equipment. But Horror in the Forest pre-production, you had me take a look at casting for that one and
Okay.
send you my feedback on that. Locations you had already figured out for the that whole thing. We had the woods and the Airbnb we were staying in. But yeah, I took a look at casting for that one, and I think that was the first one that I sent feedback on scripts for,
Mhm.
because I remember a couple different versions of scenes for that one. So that's just my assumption. I think I did on that. On
Yeah,
production is where I think I kind of jumped up in responsibility was when we actually were on set.
yeah. So for pre-production now, and really it started with this when we kind of, built up on it. Dylan and Tegan both helped me with doing casting. So casting, if you don't know, or if you've never done it, is a huge time suck. There is like we get 5,000 auditions, and this is like what people don't realize. And I always want to tell actors like your odds are so slim, and like I like just to go through the first couple ways is extremely difficult.
Hmm.
um and it's always good to have other people's feedback. Like I like to we always usually come to some kind of consensus at least on the top ones. So do you have any advice how you went through casting for like the last couple of movies, or anything you can do for someone who's looking at casting for the first time?
Yeah, as we like level up in production, the tools that we're using to get our casts figured out are adjusting and changing every now and then. So right now we're using Actors Access and Backstage. With just those two avenues alone, I want to say for the one we're getting ready to film next month, on Actors Access by itself, I think there was close to 10,000 submissions on that. And then on Backstage, when we did that one before we started the Actors Access, there's probably another 3 or 4 thousand on there. Those are your two best avenues because, again, with how long each audition is, it's usually about minute 30 per sides. So like when we have multiple sides for characters, it adds up to about 2, 3 minutes. Um, we being such a small team is like really hard to like get through there. So the first little bit of each of your auditions is kind of important for us at least. We'll like look at it and we're trying to see how you deliver that first little line, or if there's two different sides, we'll look at the intense one first. Be like, okay, if they can do the intense, they can do the calm and everything like that. So just making sure that you utilize those beginning areas of each set of sides to try to hook us in early is really good, just because with how many we have to go through, it just kind of gets repetitive hearing the same delivery on some of the stuff. So, take a chance. Like with one of the actors for Forced to Death with Ben, like this is not something I think works all the time, but randomly works every now and then. He was like sitting outside by a campfire, got the attention fully. We were like, not really sure what's going on here. Let's take a look at this one. So we looked at that, but just trying to do something to draw our attention, just because a lot of the auditions are going to look the same, and then using those two avenues specifically is going to give you the best chance you have, I think, versus other avenues or like posting on social media and tagging us and stuff. Um, but yeah, that would be my advice. Try to hook in your casting directors early.
Yeah, and just on what we've learned, or I've learned as we've kind of done these, is all these things add up. Give them 1 page or 2 pages. That's it. Don't give them 4 or 5 pages because that's just gonna, number one, it's gonna annoy them, and number two, it's like a long time. If you if you have 5 minutes of watching an audition, it's gonna be crazy. What I usually do is try and take a scene that is intense, that shows that they can act intense, screaming scene or a tense scene, and I just make it the bare minimum. I make it 1 page. And then we try and find one where it's just a normal conversation, and we try and make it 1 page. So they're 2 minutes per person, and they go from there. And that works really well for us because a lot of times before we were just doing the intense scene, and a lot of people can act intense and it's not very difficult, but they struggle to have a normal conversation. So I think this new strategy that we've done, allows us to see both sides of the acting range, and allows us to make decisions better, but do not go any more than 2 pages. Because you're doing, like, we're doing 5,000 auditions. If you do 4 minutes or 4 pages, that's twice as long, and it
Hmm.
is a grind. Um, so let's go into basically horror in the forest. This shoot was really smooth.
Yeah.
This really was one of the smoothest, to the point where I remember, I was like talking to my brother. I was like, "Are we missing anything?" Um, but you kind of want to go through this one. Do we have any stories in this one that, outside of the last scene with the pool, do we have anything crazy that kind of happened, or was there anything that you kind of wanted to highlight?
Um, yeah, this was the first one that we utilized the community casting. Um, this was the most at this point. Like typically it'd be 1 or 2 roles, but for this one we had all the interviewers, which was a fun challenge for us to try to figure out how to like coordinate all those people's flights, getting them out there and filming within the time frame that was allotted, because we had a couple that were local, I believe. They had rides and stuff that were coming to pick them up and everything like that. So, finding different spots for all these people and making sure that it still made sense for the story, like pulling over doing guerrilla filmmaking at some of the spots with the cars and everything like that. We had cars driving by. But it was our first time doing the community casting for this one, so that was a fun challenge in itself. Fun story. We had the blind dog that
Oh
kept
yeah.
finding us because we had flashlights out there. It kept showing up. Do you remember that dog's name?
No, but yeah, there was like a blind dog out in the woods, and the woods are really creepy. Like
Oh
that,
yeah.
there's probably been about 5 or 6 times where I've been like legitimately scared. And we were 3 in the morning, and you had The spirit box. Wasn't it a spirit box you were like out there messing around
Yeah.
with?
So
Yeah.
there was a little we had a HQ which was just like this screened in kind of shed thing. And then next to that was a small house that had like two bedrooms basically and one bathroom. No living room or anything like that. But me, Jim, Alexa, and Andrew, and I want to say some of the Discord people were, or our Discord folks were there for that as well. But we were using like a Spirit Box app on my phone and trying to talk to spirits out there because we had heard like a rumor that there were spirits in that property because it was just a couple acres out there that were fenced out. But what was creepier than that was we have the random shot of them in there. We're filming a scene right next to like this trail, and we just hear lots of like thudding and like running. And so I started tweaking out. This is the most scared I've ever been on any of the sets ever. And we have like a flashlight. We're looking and we're just seeing a bunch of eyes. And we're like, what is all of that? It had been like a herd of cows. Half of them ran by and were on one side, and the other half stayed back because they heard us because we were all like, whoa, what's that? Whatever. Really, really creepy. Just a bunch of cows in the middle of the night at like 4 in the morning, super sleep deprived. And then they ended up making the final cut of the movie.
Yeah, I mean the woods are creepy. Apparently they were like some like Civil War battleground or something. There's a
Hmm.
whole bunch of like soldiers that died there. There's some kind of lore that they were saying. The two takeaways that I got from this one is I remember like the cord broke or I had the wrong cords. And I had to go back and we were like 45 minutes, 30, 45 minutes away from
Hmm.
like home to this place. And that's like now we have four of every single cord. Dylan also lost a light on this one, the
I
LED
thought
light.
I the LED panel?
Yeah, it's gone. Remember
No,
the
it was
Falcon
the
Eyes?
BD.
Nah, the
No,
Falcon.
that was the shoot that I thought I broke the Falcon Eyes on, and then it was fixed because we were in your truck and I was like, "Hey, I think I broke this light," and you were like messing with it when we got back to the Airbnb, and you're like, "No, that one, the BD went missing," and we were out there the next day combing the field that we were filming, and it was the same night that the cows showed up, and then you ended up finding it in one of the hard cases later.
Yeah, okay. I don't know.
The
I thought we
other one
lost the Falcon
disappeared.
Eyes.
I can't
No,
remember
I think it
whose set
was.
that
Yeah,
was.
you did break it because you were googling how much it cost.
Yeah, and you were like, it's not broken. It's probably just the cord. And then it wasn't broken.
And I think we still have. No, I thought we lost one of those though. Didn't we lose a
We
Falcon?
did later. I want to say we lost it at Bigfoot or Cold Grave.
Can't remember. I know there's one
One
missing.
of them went missing.
We're down to one now, and the wires are like cooked on it. But the old Falcon Eyes are so much better than the new Falcon
The
Eyes,
new
which makes
ones.
no sense at all. But it is what it is. Um, so my lessons on that one was like always have backups on backups on backups. We have lights, we have cords. How many like batteries do we have now? We have so many batteries.
Yeah, we got a whole
Um,
case of them.
Things break all the time. Especially if you're out in the middle of nowhere, like we have two cameras now. We literally have if one of the cameras breaks, we have another one. The other one that we did really well is we, for all our other movies before this one, we've always done the special effects last or the big stuff last. Um, and we didn't do that with this one. And that like was a huge improvement. It's a lot of stress. We always have one scene in these movies where we're like, we'll figure it out later. We'll figure it out later. We'll figure it out later. And it's always the end. I don't remember what it was in this movie, but there was definitely something where we couldn't figure out how to do it, and it was always like anytime that happens it's a disaster. um
I
but
feel like
go
I was just thinking, I think it was something in the trailer, because I feel like the trailer shooting took forever.
Yeah,
But my that also was where my takeaway came from was learning to try our best to maintain the properties we're on a little bit better because of the trailer shoot. We had moved like couches and beds and everything all around there, and in amidst all the chaos, we ended up ruining some meat that was in one of
yeah,
the fridges we unplugged.
I got the Reggie who's on a lot of our movies, his family let us use this property and they're really nice people, but I got a message like 2 days later saying you unplugged the fridge and all our meat. They had like a whole freezer full of meat and we ruined
Hmm.
all the meat. And then I guess you guys left a microwave on the middle of the floor or a fridge in the
It
middle of
was
the
a
floor.
mini fridge. I had moved a mini fridge in there.
So I had to pay them back for their meat. But like
Spoiled
out of
meat.
all the things that we've broken before, that was probably the least one. I did feel bad though, because I mean, like they were really, really nice. And I would like to use that property again at some point. So I apologize. But go into the last day. So the last day on this one was fantastic. We had small little pickups. We
Oh
did
God.
intro stuff with them, and the vibes on this set were fantastic. Andrew, Alexa were great. Like this one, I really like this movie because there's a lot of character depth in here, and the characters are all really cool and unique. I think the script had a lot of issues, which is just on me. There's a lot of pacing issues, but for the most part, like the vibes on set were fantastic. Really had a good time with this one. So we have one little scene left, which is the added scene of them outside. And I'm like, this is the easiest scene ever. You basically just film it. And so we were like getting a couple drinks. We were celebrating before we really should have. And then Dylan, what happened?
Yeah, so it was the scene after Howard appeared and pointed a shotgun at me. We're just kind of talking about the day and how crazy everything is. And so it's like a I'm there for like 10 seconds talking about it, and then it was the added scene for character development between Andrew and Alexa's character. And we're like, okay, good, this is super easy. We got a bunch of Yinlings and other drinks. We're just gonna have them drinking because, it's the last day. We have nothing else to do. Let's all just drink. And everything that you could possibly imagine having gone wrong could. We had noise issues because there was a British family uh, down the neighborhood that had their children outside playing in the pool at like 11 p.m.
Yeah, it was 11 p.m. and also it was like literally like 45
Pitch black.
degrees out. It was
Yeah.
crazy. Like in there in the pool. It was the craziest thing ever.
Yeah, so that was kind of frustrating because, like, obviously we can't just like yell at them to shut up or anything. So we're just trying to find lulls in it, and we do a take, and then they'd scream in the middle of it. So we'd wait, and then we'd do it again, and it just kind of went like that. Then we ran out of batteries for the lav mics. So at this point, I'm a couple drinks in. I can't drive to the store, but luckily there's one that's a quarter mile up the road. So I start hauling it there before they close, and get back there with those batteries. Then the light dies because early PA Dylan forgot to put the batteries on the chargers the day before for the lights. And so I had to try to figure out how to get the cord outside because there wasn't any plug outlets. And then I want to say that might have been all of the issues that happened on there. I
I
think
think
everything else
so.
was fine.
It just took a long time. I remember we started
Yeah,
shooting at
it's like
like 8
4
and
hours.
until like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
But like I said, we did all the hard stuff already. That was the easy scene, so it really wasn't like that bad.
That was the first
Um,
time we got like a inkling of a rap party. We all
yeah,
were listening to music and swimming in the pool at the end of it.
we had a good rap party on that one. The only other story that I have a note in there was that we were doing the fire torch scene at the end. And like one of the benefits of having Dylan is now he understands like number one, how I operate and how we film things. And there's a lot of times in the movie, especially now when he's getting really good at it, it's just like, I don't know how I'm doing this. Like, I will have no idea how I'm going to shoot this, or I feel like I may not have the best idea. And like, I'm always open for ideas. So I bring Dylan, I'm like, hey, is what I'm doing logical? Is this going to make sense? Or sometimes I'm like, all right, let's just figure out how to do this. And I think this is the first time like I really started asking you stuff, and it was like how to film the fire torch scene. And so Dylan goes off and tells me this whole thing, this whole thing, this whole thing. And I'm like half listening, like half trying to do my own thing in my head. And I'm like, all right, I'll think about it. And then Alexa comes up and she tells me the same exact thing. And I go, yeah, that's it. And he got so mad. And I always remember that. And it was the funniest thing. He's like, oh, screw you, man. What the heck? But I
That
think
happens
that was
all
like
the
the
time
first
now.
time like I really started to ask you on like get your opinion on a lot of things.
Hmm.
And I think Tangen's now getting a good idea of, how we do things because there's a lot of things that you think will work in your head and they just don't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about that or, how you've kind of evolved into basically understanding how we operate and how we do pop scares? It's usually pop scares or like
Yeah.
logistical stuff like that.
It's interesting because like when I had like first started, even back to like Murder House, I was interested in trying to get my hands into whatever I could to help out, and I had asked about like, oh, when you guys are writing the scripts, I'd love to like be a part, and it was like shut down instantly, like too many cooks in the kitchen, can't do it. So the whole time, me being, a little film student that thinks he knows better, was like, okay, how would I do this differently in this scenario if there's something that is up for debate? And then it just kind of got to the point where as you work with somebody for a couple projects, you start to figure out exactly what kind of style of stuff they want. But also, I think the thing that kind of helps me is for every one good idea I have five shit ones. So it's like I'll pitch you ideas and everything like that that don't really fit the style and everything. And as I do that, I'm learning more from, like why that shot won't work. It's getting explained to me a little bit better. And then for the next adjustment period for the next film, less and less of those bad ideas are coming through and more of the good ones that kind of fit the style are sticking around. Um, but yeah, I think, and again, that's why I mentioned that I feel like it happens a lot now too, is because we have Tegan that's also learning the style and everything like that. And she's throwing out ideas, getting rejected, and then learning how to pivot and adjust those to where they end up working. It's just a trial and error and like a trust and communication between the team to kind of figure out like, okay, I don't have an idea for this. I trust you guys to help me come up with something. Is you, and then we pitch ideas, and it just kind of becomes a collaborative set for a lot of different places in production. Like you even do it with the actors now too, where like if they have ideas for their characters, it gets adjusted. It's just trial and error until you figure out a flow for everybody.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely helped out a lot. There's a lot of much better ideas. It's definitely a process though that I've had to work with because you do not want everyone to basically come in and start just giving you a ton of ideas because my job is to push the production forward no matter what. Like when we sit down and we do our breakdowns at the end of these movies, the first thing I say is, did we complete a movie? Yes or no? That is the only objective. Like it doesn't matter how good or bad the movie is, we have to complete a movie, we have to upload it. That is like number one, and slowing down to go through and get everyone's input is, it's slow, but you also want that feedback. So it is like I view myself as a sponge. I take all the information in and go. But at the same time, the people giving the information can't be like butthurt if their ideas don't get used. Just in the filmmaking idea in general, just in filmmaking in general, in script writing, and just doing this whole creative stuff, for every one good idea, you're gonna have 20 really bad ones, and it's just not your fault. It's just the nature of the beast. So you have to understand that if you're getting butthurt with every single one, you're gonna just have a broken ego very quick. I mean, I make bad decisions all the time. When you go and have to edit a movie, it is bad decision after bad decision after bad decision you have to live with. And I think one of the reasons why, Dylan gets more freedom now is because you can come on set and you've never been on film set and you've never done been like a DP or anything like that. You're gonna have all these ideas. What you think is in your head is possible, and it's just not. Like, especially with our budget, there is a lot of things that we just cannot do. And so now it's like, all right, well, we can't do that shot because I can't get the lighting, or we don't have enough room in here, spaces big time with the cinematic lenses. And I think he has the understanding of what needs to happen now, especially with lighting. Before I used to sit there with the camera and be like, all right, turn it, tilt it, turn it. And now it's like, all right, like half silhouette, good. It's easy. And especially with we took a big step up in lighting in Echoes of Evil of just like pointing at the ground or the ceiling
Hmm.
looks way more dynamic. And that's just be on the same page. But I think talk about the pickleback bets because I really like this because there are times when you're on set and I'll be like, I don't like that idea. And you're like, no, that is a really good idea. Or we'll do two variations of it. When they push back on me and they're confident about it, talk about how we do the picklebacks.
Yeah, so that was something that you and Kellen had told us about um, at one point where it's just like, yeah, like we'll do this with our buddies if they say like we're out and they're like, yeah, I could throw this into that cup over there, and you're just like, you're an idiot. No, you can't. Um, let's put a pickleback on it. So that just kind of became the principle. And the first time we were kind of abusing it, it was like for every like small thing. But now, if tensions get high on like pitching ideas to one another, we'll put a pickleback on it, where it's like you have to be really confident in what you're doing and to put one on there, or um, you have to be super confident that the person pitching the idea is wrong to kind of put it on there, and it ups the stakes each time. works as a really great tension breaker for like when we're pitching different ideas where it's just like, all right, we're gonna let the pickleback decide it. You know, whoever gets rewarded it was right, and it's a good way to move on from there. Um, and then they all get paid out at like the end of shoot or the next time we all see each other when we're not doing a shoot. And then there'll be like 10 per production, if not more. Sometimes it's dumb stuff. We'll do it like on a food budget. Like when we go out to do the grocery shopping at the start of the production, we're like, all right, what do we think we're at? And we'll each guess a number, and then whoever's closest gets picklebacks from the other two.
Yeah, I think it works well. It diffuses tension. It's just fun. Like we'll do it on really dumb stuff, or we'll do it
Oh yeah.
like I know like Dylan. I think the first one I can't remember what we did it. I mean, it was like Cold Grave, the premiere. He owed me like 8 picklebacks or something like some
Hmm.
ridiculous amount like that. Um, but I think they've been pretty even the last couple of shoots. I think we're getting pretty good at
Yeah. There's only
getting
like one or two getting paid out
yeah.
nowadays.
I know taking cheats though, so
Every now and then.
every now and
You
then.
guys think I
So
do with the receipts?
let's talk about one, which is kind of a crazy one, and this is always Cold Grave because the whole thing was like, what's the cheapest we can make a movie for? Because it's just like all these movies are expensive, they were huge productions, and it was just like, can we just make a movie with a dude in the woods and see what happens? And that's like what it was. This whole movie was me, Dylan, Ben, and my brother basically going through like the location was free. Ben got paid his day rate, Dylan got paid his day rate, but like we had no other equipment. I think like the Helen mask and Ben's cigarettes were the largest budget. So talk about like a super micro budget, something that like anybody can make. Like literally, when I say anybody can make, this movie could have been filmed on a cell phone and you would have been fine. I intentionally had to go and degrade the footage because it's supposed to look like that. It probably would have been better if we would have shot it on a cell phone. But this movie was made for less than $5,000, has full worldwide distribution, it's done really well. But I mean, it was talk about that one and just a completely no budget movie.
Yeah, so that one, the shooting locations consisted of the Oviedo house and a state park that had a campground that we had like rented for dirt cheap for the week. And apart from that, it was just, Roger's wardrobe. Again, you mentioned the cigarettes. There was like $4,999 spent on cigarettes, $1 for the rest of everything else. Um, but we just filmed at those two locations and we had a wagon that we would drag everything out to the actual campground for and just film out there. That movie's a lot of monologuing from Ben in terms of the performance and the storytelling comes through monologuing. So we would do stuff like that. The special effects for that one, the zombies were pretty special effects heavy, and then the eyes were like I want to say those were probably the two biggest ones. But it was just going out there as soon as the sun sets, filming till sun's basically up, getting back in the truck, blasting music with the windows down, and then sleeping for a couple hours before setting back up for the next day. That one was wild because apparently we were in actual like shapeshifter woods or something. If you look it up online, the park's rumored to be shapeshifter woods. So we had created like we had created code name or like code words that we would tell each other. You would have to have a shapeshifter buddy, and you would say the code names every now and then to make sure that we hadn't been grabbed. But that one was like the most delusional I think I've ever been on a set. But low budget, can't beat it.
That one was weird because I don't really remember it too much, and it like went by so quick. I think we only shot for like 5 days too. I just remember like driving back, we'd order Wawa at like
5 in
six
the
in the
morning.
morning, five
Yeah.
in the morning, and we try and watch The Last of Us was like coming out, and we just never did. We kept passing out. But like I don't really remember too much of that shoot, honestly. It was very bizarre.
It was the first time that we used your apartment as base camp. So like we would drive to location every day and then come back out. So like not being immediately on set for that one was kind of a challenge in itself because we were having to bring all the important equipment up each night and then load it back up the next day. It's like the only time we've ever had to do that for production.
Yeah, the only other thing that I think was in there that was interesting, there's a lot of wild animals, a lot of noises. I was really freaked out in these woods because you had to walk. It was only three of us. If I forgot something or had changed the camera, go to my car, you had to walk almost like probably a quarter of a mile in these like thick woods, and there was no lights, and it was just like really kind of creepy. It was not uncomfortable, but we also had people in there. Dylan
Yeah,
had to
there's
go, and you could go tell people about how we actually deal with other people who are in the area, and you're like process with this because I think there was people out there doing drugs.
There was a guy out there that was doing drugs. Yeah, usually like when we're on set, if we're filming in a neighborhood, like an Airbnb that's in a neighborhood, I'll go door to door to the people directly next door and the person across the street, and I'll just kind of be like, "Hey, just want to introduce myself. My name's Dylan. I'm working for this production that's filming in the house either next to you or across or whatever. Um, we're filming a horror film, so there is a chance that we can get a little loud with some of the scenes. What I want to do is I want to give you my number. If we ever get loud, shoot me a text, or if, give me a call or whatever. I would much rather hear a complaint from one of the neighbors than having the cops show up while we're filming. So we've used that tactic basically since Cold Grave, I think was the first one because I had to go tell the people at the neighboring campsites. Never had an issue from there, but yeah, there was a gentleman when we were filming Cold Grave. We were filming right at the entrance of his campground. It had a little walkway, and I went and I was talking to him. Really sketchy because again, these woods are really creepy. It was during the day, of course, but he was just like shirtless, long hair, like think Florida man. That's what was going on. And he was like, "Oh man, like I don't care. I'm just out here doing some ayahuasca or like something like that." And we are like, "Oh man, we are gonna mess this guy up with all the noises that we have going on tonight." Oh man, but we never saw him again. He ended up leaving the campsite, I'm guessing the next day with no issue. But yeah, usually just going next door, letting them know. Haven't had any issues. Pretty solid way of doing things if you're filming in an Airbnb.
Yeah, and I'd always like recommend this. We do use fire, we do use like rubber firearms, or unloaded firearms in some of these, and you really do not want the cops showing up. Because number one, they'll shut you down. Number two, it's a dangerous situation. It's better to just tell people. I don't think like has anyone ever been like no or uncomfortable with it. They've all been pretty happy.
The only time we've ever had somebody give any pushback was a um Airbnb owner. Like once we did it at the first Airbnb, I started like the next time I tried to include it in my thing where I was like, "Hey, could you give like your neighbors my number in case there's any issues, whatever?" And they were like, "No, do not contact our neighbors." And I was like, "Oh." And then I still had to contact their neighbors anyway when we got there. But I was like, "Okay, that was the only time we've ever had any pushback for that."
Yeah, most people that we've dealt with are just excited to be part of a movie or just part of the
They'll try
process.
to find a spot to slide in. They're like, "Oh well, if you need anybody to do blah blah blah, I'll come right over." And I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah. So but Cold Grave is our smallest production. Bigfoot still to this day is our largest production budget wise. And I want to say kind of highlight this one because filmmaking in general is really at its core basics problem solving. Everything we do, I wake up, Dylan wakes up, Tang wakes up. There's a list of problems. They need to be solved and we solve them. A lot of people, I think, why a lot of films enter the void and a lot of people burn out with this job is because problem solving sucks. It is terrible. It is under pressure. It is crazy. It sucks. Even in life, the people who get rewarded the most, who get usually the most money, solve problems. And people, especially now, I have a hard time finding people who actually want to solve problems or can solve problems. One of the reasons Dylan and Tegan are fantastic is they can solve problems and I don't have to deal with it because I still have to run my other business. I have to work with actors. We have to do a million other things. I'm also exhausted. Like it is difficult. So usually they'll wake up and fix all the problems, which is usually getting props, getting anything that we need to get the day going, and they go. And once again, this comes back to actors usually get 8 hours of sleep on our sets. We work for about 12 hours. They get about 8 hours of sleep. Dylan, Tegan, myself, 4 or 5 hours because the rest of the time we have to wake up and we have to solve problems. So, my segue into Bigfoot, because Bigfoot was probably the most problems we've ever faced on any set. Um, I don't think it was the one where I thought that we had the most risk of losing the movie. It was probably the second one, but my God, this one was just everything was going wrong. So, you want to even start with just the property?
Yeah, so this was the I mean I kind of helped out in pre-production in Cold Grave, but not to the level of Bigfoot. Bigfoot for that one, that was the first time you had me on locations, and a good chunk of casting for that one. I think I took the early waves, and then you handled the later waves for the first time on that one. But yeah, so we had found this location. It was I had put on Facebook Marketplace that I was looking for properties around Orlando, Tampa, and I got a hit from this lady named Marusa. She had a 1 acre property that was connected to a state park that at the time was to be believed easily accessible from this 1 acre. So we were like, cool, we'll use that 1 acre as base camp and just film the state park, much like we did for Cold Grave. And then we got to the Airbnb. It was just used as a housing unit. I don't think we filmed anything in the Airbnb for that one.
No.
Um, we got to go look at the location, and there was barbed wire fence put up around the state park with no trespassing signs and everything like that. And the acre hadn't been touched yet. Like basically it was just, overgrown. There wasn't any trails. There wasn't really anything back there. It was just an untouched acre of land. So, me and Brendan start panicking a little bit. Howard and I ended up going out there because was Howard filming or
No, he had just decided to come out because things were
he was
getting
showing up?
bad.
Yeah, so he
Mhm.
showed up. Me and him went out there with machetes and axes and like carved a path through this thing that circled all the way back to the cul-de-sac, basically. Um, and we are like, okay, we might be able to make this work. We were out there for about an hour doing the trail, and then I was like, all right, Howard, let's get in the truck real quick. Like, I called a bunch of people about looking for locations a while ago. Let me call some of these places back, see, what we can do. And then I called this place, this RV park that's owned by this man named Jeff. And I had talked to him about 2 weeks before, and he wanted nothing to do with the project. And then when I talked to him about it this time, he was really like he was for it. He was all in on it. So it was perfect. Me and Howard went over, met with the guy, negotiated what the location fee was going to be and everything like that. Wasn't anything crazy. He didn't ask for much. He was very giving in terms of being a location owner for the production. He hooked us up with golf carts and a generator, and always was making sure that we had water and stuff and ice to cool down because we were filming in like July. Um, but he ended up coming around, saving the day after we called a bunch of places. So that was the first major problem solved. Was the locations.
Yeah, and that location turned out to be fantastic. I remember we had shot a little bit at that acre, and a lot of the movie still has that acre in it. All the fire pit stuff, the intro is shot in the one, and like a little bit of the other stuff in there.
And
We could
Marissa's
not.
actually in the interview segment. She's
Yeah,
the
she's
woman
she
with the
did a
hat
good
and the blue
job.
shirt.
Hmm. We would have never been able to shoot this movie all the way there, though. It just would have been very hard. So Jeff really came through. It worked out really well, and it was honestly we had golf carts, we had great stuff. Because the other big problem with this one, I always remember this will be like one of the core memories that I have is in Florida, it doesn't rain at night. If it does, it'll rain maybe one day and that's it. For the most part, it rains from 4 to 6 every single day in the summer, and then after that, it's clear skies. So we were in Tampa, or a little bit north of Tampa. We're in this woods, and all of a sudden, like it gets really weird. Like the wind picks up, and like everything starts.
Sky
It gets
turned
like
like
cold.
red.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sky gets really red, and I'm like, that's kind of creepy. Like this is like 3 in the morning, and Tegan's like, "Hey, there's a huge storm coming." I'm like, "No, Tegan, like." There's not a huge storm coming. I live in Florida. There's not a problem. She's like, no, like there is a storm coming. And so we get everything and God bless the golf carts because we are deep in the woods right now. We get the camera in there and we zip it up. They had like not only was it a golf cart, it had like rain shielding
Rain
in it,
shields.
which is
Yep.
just like incredible. And it proceeded to rain. And then it proceeded to rain every single day since then. So like how we go ahead and talk about how we got most of that done because that was actually pretty crazy on how we had to like adjust the schedule and just change everything, and then go into like the last minute conversations we had to do to get everyone back for pickups.
Yeah, so for that one, it rained nonstop, but only ever when it was dark. And for this one, we're filming outside, and the story takes place at night, so there's not an option to shoot during the day. So what we would have to do is we had radar apps on our phone, and we were adjusting the schedule to do the absolute heavy shit as fast as possible because that way, anytime there were small segments of no rain, we could move around and film that stuff instead of some of the stuff that was on the original schedule. And we would sit in the vehicles in between rain spurts. So like we had my truck there, we had Kellen's car there, and then we had the golf cart. Just as a funny little side, Brendan oftentimes would elect to just sit in the golf cart by himself and just think about his life. But yeah, we'd sit in the vehicles and just kind of wait out what was going on. Um, and then as soon as it got done, we'd pop out. It was wet, muddy, very humid because again, this was July, so as soon as it rained, it would like feel incredibly humid. And film again, just kind of doing that process for 3 days, and then we got to, was it the last night or the second to last night? Second to last night.
No, I think it was the last night. We tried to get everything done, and this
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like another happy accident that we had because I was really pissed at the time. Because just to let you know, I think the budget for this movie was around $15,000. The pickups added like another 8 grand to it. So it's like just to do any kind of pickups at all is insanely expensive, and it sucks.
Yeah,
And it really sucks. And I did not want to do that, but like it rained out that whole night, and
because
I
we
think we
hadn't
did,
even left the house yet when the rain started that night, and we were
and we
looking, it's
had we
supposed
had
to go
like
until
Irish,
sunrise.
yeah, we had Irish in there and everything. I think we did like that scene, but there was nothing else we could really do. But it worked out because all those special effects with the arm and Dylan's head smash and everything were done much better. And that ended up, I think it did take us like 2 days or 3 days of shooting that we actually had to get all that done.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no way we would have got it done in one day. So it did work out. But it sucked. Like, and really everything we do now is to avoid pickups because it's just the amount of time and money it takes. It's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and
Because a lot of the
so
time when people think about pickups on an indie standpoint, they're not thinking about the fact that if there are any materials for special effects that are needed that were made before, there's a chance that they can't be used at that point. You have to pay everybody's day rates again. You have to pay to lodge everybody. If you're paying for the location, you're paying for that. Food, like all that stuff. Just a lot of the times people are like, oh, okay, it's not that bad. You just got to get an Airbnb. There's all these like built-in costs to production that people often forget about, which is why pickups just ha at the like they're the pinnacle of like making sure we don't have to do that shit is that.
yeah, and to give you an example, on this movie we're about to shoot, we have the option to do one extra day. And I feel really comfortable with this script. I feel really comfortable with the production. Like there's nothing in here that makes me hesitant. And I still push for the last day because if everyone's there and we have everything there, just having one extra day to just do pickups or really focus on it will save you money. Like every time I have to go through an edit and there's a chance at pickups, it's that first going through of the edit is so nerve-wracking. Like I just did it today to make sure like we're good with echoes, and it's nerve-wracking because it's really hard to get everything you need in these movies, and it can really blow your budget real quick. I mean, even like Hollywood doesn't get everything when they want to get it, so imagine being on indie set. It's tough. Do you want to tell people how you almost burned down our location?
Yeah, so even though I had been doing it for a while, every now and then we make mistakes. This was the first time I wore a new hat, which was Chef Dylan. So I was cooking meals some of the nights for production, and this happened to fall on burger night. So I had a little stovetop grill thing that I was cooking the burgers on, and I had popped the fries in the oven. We ate the burgers. Fries weren't quite done yet, but we ate our burgers. They were really good. Went out and filmed a little small segment for about 45 minutes, plus a 15-minute drive. came back and it's really smoky in the house, and we're like, what's going on here? Go and open up the oven. All the fries are still in there. We forgot that they were ever fries to begin with. So I had to pick them up, run them outside because it was just filling the house with smoke. And yeah, that could have been really, really bad had we, if it hadn't rained that night, it could have been way worse because that stuff could have caught fire. So another one of those happy accidents that, sometimes happen on production.
Yeah, we have a lot of happy accents. So there's everything happens for a reason in my book. So let's go uh and take a look at the next one, which is Girl in Cabin 14, which also has its own basic issues. Like every one of these has its issues. So what was the one with Cabin 14?
So the issue with Cabin or the last Cabin was we had been to a film festival the weekend just before we filmed, and we're there for the premiere of Cold Grave, and Brendan got convention COVID. And then Brendan gave convention COVID to me, and then I gave convention COVID to Tegan. And at some point in there, we think Isabella may have gotten convention COVID, or no, she said she was fine. I think we asked her about it recently. She said that
Ben was in the hospital.
yeah, Ben ended up going to the hospital because he was at the same convention the night before he filmed. So we were not at 100%. I want to say any of the days except maybe two of them, we kind of got back to normal. But yeah, we were not at 100% for that movie just due to sickness. Um, that just took us all out. The fatigue for that shoot was the worst I've ever experienced, but I think it was mainly to do with our sickness.
Yeah, I mean, with that one, I had felt a little ill the Wednesday. I think the convention was like on a Thursday, or at least you guys came on a Thursday, and I started to feel ill Wednesday. And I never get sick. So when I know I get sick, I'm like, oh my God, it's COVID. And so I went and we took the swabs. I took two swabs. And I think I texted you. I was like, hey, I might have COVID. If I have COVID, I'm going to put you and Tegan into, there's like a hotel right next to my apartment and we'll quarantine and then we'll go. Cause like, man, once we have everything together with these movies, like, you can't stop it, right? It's just there's no going there. But I can't make a movie if everyone's got COVID. Like it just wasn't going to be good. Turns out it wasn't COVID.
Hmm.
And then I just started chugging NyQuil, and we went to the convention, and the convention just spread it. It was tough. And so here's the thing with making a movie: when you are a full peak healthy individual, making a movie is probably the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life. It is extremely, extremely, extremely difficult. When you finish these, your brain is smooth, your body's like destroyed. I literally sleep for like 18 hours on the first day back. So imagine being, and that was probably the sickest I've been in the last 4 years. Everybody was sick. It was just really, really difficult. Um, but I mean, we got it done. I don't think there's anything else in there. Like that was a smooth shoot. There was
Yeah.
nothing in there that was like,
It was weirdly smooth. Like
yeah,
I remember like having time to like sit there and play video games for a little bit. Like 'cause we were caught up on everything. It was like super weird because again, to be that level of sick while also, filming not just a movie, but filming a movie overnight and not getting to sleep and not seeing the sun, like wild.
yeah. And we shot that one pretty quick after Bigfoot too. That was a movie. That was a year we did 4 movies in 1 year, which is
Yeah.
absolutely insane. Um,
Doing it again this year. No, I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
we're gonna try. We're gonna
No,
try.
maybe.
We'll see what happens. I think we'll get 3 in this year. The only thing that I remember is like this is one where we realized like cleanup is a big thing.
Hmm.
So why don't you highlight like what we did with cleanup and how this happened? Because we had cleaned the entire Airbnb, everything is ready to go. We go out and film the scene where Ben gets chainsawed and we had the blood cannon. And this was like, I think it's probably
I
like
don't think it
Warner
was Ben.
Ben's character. No, not Ben. Brendan. His
Gotcha.
character
Yeah,
gets,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, outside the trailer and
So,
Tanner gets done. But this was like 1 or 2 in the morning. We had cleaned up everything. I was expecting a rap party. And
oh, no, that's the next movie. That's the next movie. This one we hadn't.
no, that's what I'm saying. Like we set up for that blood cannon thing at like 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And we had cleaned up everything in there. And I was like, we're gonna have a wrap party. And because I had flights, Brendan Gaucher had a flight out at I think 12, and I had a flight to Vegas at like 1 o'clock. I'm like, plenty of time to get there. we go and mess around with the blood pump, and we are scrambling. So
Yeah.
explain like how we now have a new day for this and why cleanup is just a huge process on any kind of film.
Yeah, so we were filming. We had two crucial mistakes, or I'd say three crucial mistakes this night. One, if you've seen our BTS on our TikTok from this film, you will see a video of Tanner getting absolutely just destroyed by our blood cannon. We had a lot of blood left over in it. We didn't want it to go to waste, and he was already covered. We asked him if he wanted to get sprayed for BTS. He was all in on it. We doused this man in blood. It left quite a big puddle over by the shed. Also, the shed that we had filmed the torture scene in was still pretty covered in blood because we filmed that scene, said, okay, tomorrow we'll come out here and deal with that, and then forgot about it. And then we also, for that wrap party, implemented confetti cannons for the first time.
Oh,
Major mistake, especially at night when it's wet and that paper is everywhere. And then the third one was we had collected the trash bags and put them near the house because the driveway was pretty long. So we're like, at the end of the shoot, we'll put everything in there. Um, so we finish filming. We're talking for a little bit. I go outside. We're assessing the situation. We're like, oh shit, there is blood all over the shed. So we're out there scrubbing the shed, cleaning the wood on the floor because blood that had been on the torture table had dripped down and soaked onto the floor. So we're cleaning that. We're having to pick up each individual piece of confetti. And I remember starting that when the sun still was down and not being done with that until the sun was up. And then the trash bags, we had bought a trash can to put Kellen's body in. We ended up having to leave that at the Airbnb with like 40 trash bags filled with food and all kinds of shit because they had two trash cans, we had one, and then we had a foam cooler that we had also filled with trash bags just because we had some bad trash management on this shoot. We thought we were further ahead than we were on the cleaning process, and it decided to sneak attack us, which led Brendan Gaucher to missing his flight. Isabella, I think, almost missed hers.
yeah, I
Uh,
had a flight. So we all had flights and we also got stuck in traffic, but Brandon missed his flight and I was really upset.
Brendan Gaucher got to the airport that morning, and I didn't fly out until that night. And when I went to the airport, he was still there.
Yeah, I
I like
felt
went
really
and
bad
talked
for
to him.
that.
Yeah.
He's really cool. I really like him. I'd love to work with him
Yeah.
again. But I gave him like $100. I was like, just get drunk, like just get
Like
party.
get some
Like I
drinks,
felt
get some
so bad.
food.
Um, and I had to go scramble through TSA. I hadn't showered in 24 hours. I'm soaked in sweat because we did this in the middle. I think it was like September.
Hmm.
I'm covered in blood. So like my legs are covered in blood, my shirt's covered in blood, and I had to go through TSA. And I'm like, oh my God, they're not gonna let me through. No one said anything. But I had to sit on the plane, smelly as hell, with blood all over me just to get out of there. Never again, don't do that. Let's talk a little bit about trash management and our thing now with like everyone gets their own water, their cups, because explain why that is a thing.
Yeah, so first of all, this started the implementation of book-in dates. So now we have a date for travel and for us arriving at the Airbnb to unpack the day before we start shooting, and then we have a day at the end that is for pickups and cleanups. Now, those two being added have saved us a lot of grief, but another big change was I want to say it was Tegan's idea. Tegan said that we needed to just buy everybody their own or buy reusable water bottles and then label them for each person because we were filling so many trash bags with plastic water bottles and spending so much money on plastic water bottles that it just was a really bad play. So we just decided to buy a water purifier and a bunch of water bottles, and we write fun little nicknames for each person. The only one I can think of right now is for Grace. We put BFG because she's very tall, so the big friendly giant was hers. So we do that now to save us some of that grief with the trash. But in general, like as soon as the trash is filled, it goes out straight to the trash can because we're there so long that trash comes around and gets picked up at least once while we're there.
Yeah, so I mean that's a good implementation. So let's go into the next one, which is Murder House. Murder House is interesting because I had absolutely decimated my leg. I had a huge like burn on my leg. So I was like hobbling around. We had to build a wall. So let's go into the biggest thing with this one was building this wall. I wanted a hidden room. Um, because it worked really well in the first murder house. We've seen the first murder house. It's just us moving a piece of plywood. For this one, we wanted to build out a whole thing. So it was a huge pain in the ass. That being said, it looks fantastic, and honestly, it like improves our production value a million times. I don't know if it really makes sense because I feel like the cops would see it, but for the most part, it's gonna work phenomenally in this thing in this movie. But why don't you go into the logistics of building this wall?
Right. So Brendan was like, "Hey man, like I think we should build a fake wall for this in like the garage." And I was like, "Okay." Because I'm still doe-eyed at this point. I'm like, "Yeah, I can totally do that. I used to build fake walls in my high school theater program. So this won't be hard. I already know how to do it and whatever." I was like, "It is gonna be fucking expensive though, because all of the wood and everything we use 2x4, Luan, and screws." So I started building the wall. It was supposed to take about 12 hours. It ended up taking a full like 48, I think. No, yeah, because we were doing it across 2 days. So I did one half of the wall. Unassisted, did that. Then I had one of our actors volunteered to help us out or help me out with the wall. That was really funny because, or to me, it wasn't funny at the time. I was really upset, but he was like busting my balls while we were doing it. And also, there were a couple drills that had exploded at certain points. So we went through, I want to say, 3 or 4 drills and a boatload of boatload of screws and plenty of wood, but it ended up getting done. We had tried to do a hinge on the door that took a little bit of time to figure out the logistics of that. Now we're doing something with the door now involving hinges for the next production, which I'm still learning about hinges. But yeah, that took a solid full day at the very least, if I remember correctly. Turned out pretty good. I thought it looked bad, but then Brendan sent me some pictures of it, and he said it didn't look too bad. So I'm hoping it plays as well as I think
Mhm.
it will in my head.
It'll play. I think it looks a little flimsy when we built it, but like with the color correction and everything on there and how the dark everything gets, it looks good. I think we did a good job in hindsight, and especially now, like we have a door, just a regular door for this one, and I'm already like, oh man, like, all right, let's start planning backups. And I think this is something that we do now really well. We do it for special effects. And we have backups. Or it's like if we can't get this door to look good, what do we do? With the wall, we didn't really have a backup, and I think we could have been cooked pretty quick. With
We
everything
also
that
got
kind of,
lucky
yeah, we got
with that
lucky.
garage because it
There's a
had
lot
like
of
the
stuff that,
workbench.
yeah, that got lucky with that one. But anything that kind of gives me unease now, it's like, all right, if it works, great, but have backups on backups on backups because I mean, this could have not worked, and there was a whole section of the script. There's multiple scenes in this movie just based on that room, and if we didn't have that, we would have been cooked. So then the only other thing that I'd say that we kind of learned on this one is we did the same thing we did in Cabin 14. We rapped. We had a really good rap party. You
But
guys were
we cleaned
jumping.
really well too.
Yeah, so we cleaned up, we did a wrap party, and we partied so hard that we made more of a mess, and we also didn't clean the garage, and the garage was ridiculous. You guys are jumping in the river, and this is like December in Florida. It was crazy. Things are going nuts. But we wake up and we're like, all right, let's pack and get out of here. The garage was full of blood. We had all this um wood to get rid of. And this was like probably eight or
The
nine in the
wall was
morning.
still up. The wall was still up.
Yeah, so go into like why this went from like maybe being ready to check out at like 8 or 9 in the morning to we have to get another extra day added to our stay.
Yeah, so the funny thing about that is we partied so much that there are certain parts of the night that I can only remember through Polaroids. We were playing beer pong. There's pictures of me, Stu, and Andrew, Brendan, taking shots, and there's pictures of us jumping in the river, in the radioactive river, mind you. in the middle of the night. There's all kinds of stuff. Um, the issue was we were like, okay, yeah, like we'll wake up in the morning, we'll deal with the wall, get the garage clean. And then we all slept in a little bit too hard, slept a little too hard. It was like 11, it was 10:30. We had to check out at 11. And Brendan's like, oh no, you texted me at 7:30 that morning. He texted me, he's like, "Hey, we should look at getting an extension for the day." I responded, "Okay." I texted the Airbnb owner, fell back asleep, woke up at 10:30. Saw no response from them, texted them again. And then we started panicking, went downstairs, we're cleaning the or broke down the wall, loaded it up into the truck, and we're Brendan had to do like 3 trips to the dump. We had rented a pressure washer the night before, and we're pressure washing all of the blood out of the garage. Wasn't really working too well, so we were like trying to figure stuff out. We have like 12 minutes left at this point. Airbnb owner's like, all good. You guys can check out at like, what time did we leave? Like 3?
Yeah.
3, whatever. Just enough an extension to get everything done, and then load up the truck with like 20 minutes to spare by the end of it, because that garage was just, it was messed up. We had tore that place up.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, we always clean up the places. They're always in good shape, but like to get to that point,
mhm.
is just a lot. And we were all, when you finish these things, it's such a crazy accomplishment that you want to like enjoy it. So that was another one. Thank God we never had this problem before. So let's go into echoes. And before we go into echoes and shapeshifter, because I'm really proud of these two, because where we are, we're still learning, how to tell a story properly in the time and budget we have. We're still learning how to work with actors. We're still learning everything that we can do to just make better movies. But what a lot of people don't see is the production. You really cannot do a good job if your production is behind, if you're rushed, if you have scheduling issues. And all the ones we just mentioned were good productions. We got the movie done. We won. The problem is we're still in rushed in places. There wasn't a lot of time. And the movies, they were found footage. They weren't very, intense. So we wanted to step up production. We wanted to make better movies. We want to always jump up. And one of my things is like we're always looking to get better actors, more professional people on there, more people on set. And I never really wanted to do that because we're still so indie. It was just like we're still very, very indie. And if you're pulling in people who are used to working on a Hollywood set or something bigger and they come to our stuff, not to say that it's bad, it's just different. We move very, very quickly. We always do, like, we've never had any actor issues with any actors, but we move very, very quickly and it can be a little overwhelming at times. For these next two, I think Echoes we almost nailed production, but for Shapeshifter we nailed it. It was the first time I was like, this is super smooth. Everything was there, and that is like that movie on the complicated scale is probably like 10 times more complicated than anything that we've done before that. And it was super smooth. Everything was super smooth about it. So I think Echoes and Shapeshifter, we really, because we went back to cinematic, which makes it much harder than found footage. Um, but I don't really know if we just everything started to work out or if we really put a plan into place or how we kind of got these going. So I don't, do you remember if we actually planned anything in there? It was just because we've done so many now, we kind of knew what we were doing.
For Echoes, like planned what?
Like just how why pre-production was so smooth with Echoes and Shapeshifter.
I feel like they vary depending on each production. It's just kind of dependent on how strong the crew feels about the script going forward. Because I know like our pre-production for the one we're working on that's being filmed next month was like vastly different than Murder House, and then Murder Houses is like vastly different than Bigfoot and everything. So I feel like they kind of change. This one, I can't really identify or remember what gave us the early lead on this. I
I
want
know
to say
that with
maybe,
with Echoes, the I know we were running out of time at the end, so we did
yeah,
have like crazy stuff going at the end. We did break our rule of don't do any special effects at the end day, and we did do special effects, and we were trying to get as much as we could.
we did a
Um,
kill last day, right?
we did the kill last day, but what screwed us was something that was just me was it took 3 hours to apply Grace's um her special effects. And while that was happening, we weren't filming anything else. We were just sitting there. And that cooked us by like 12 hours. And that was a whole nother shooting day that we kind of missed. But we
Mm-hmm.
still got it done. It was just a complicated movie. And also, I made a huge mistake because most of our movies are, when we're done filming, they're about an hour and 30 minutes, and I cut it down to an hour 15. Hour 15, just to let you know, is the sweet spot for indie films. Like hour 15 is where you want to be. This movie is an hour and 40 minutes right now. I just watched it, which is crazy. So we have like a 2 hour cut of this movie. We just had a lot of footage. We did a lot of
Mm.
crazy shit in this movie. So it was much more intense. But I'm just trying to think, do we make any changes, or was it just like was there anything revolutionary here? Or we just kind of like everything kind of started clicking in place.
For production, we were able to, with having a location that was in a room that could be blacked out, it gave us the ability to film during the day and not just at night like the previous films. Because the bedroom we were able to black out, we had blackout on the porch and in the bathroom. So we were able to film a lot of those heavy scenes with Grace, and the Greg's character kind of interacting and talking, and Matt Pearl's, or not Matt Pearl, Stewart, was interacting with her as well, all within that room. So that made it a little bit easier for Kaylee's possession. We were able to black out that room as well. So there were a few areas that we could film in because we were able to make it completely dark in each of those rooms, which I think helped us out a lot. And then I don't, I don't think this was one of the ones that we filmed until sunrise, except the last day either.
Yeah, I
So
remember
like
the last day. Like I have the last shot of the movie of Stu walking around the backyard and the sun's coming.
blue, yeah.
I remember that one. I will say that outside of finding Jeff's location, this is probably your second best idea. Was it the sun did set when we had the demonologist had like this long conversation scene, and really in like our budget, it was like 3 hours, and it took like 6 or 7. It was just
One of the
it was
sleeper
a
scenes.
slog. The sun set, and I know he had to like leave the next day. Like we had
Mhm.
no other daylight time in there, so we're like, oh my god, the sun is down. What are we gonna do? And you put the light outside and shot it inside.
Mhm.
And the scene looks amazing in the movie. It looks like a sun setting by just blasting. I don't know. What did you use, the Falcon Eyes?
I use the big ball. So the aperture light with the ball. I can't
Yeah, so
remember
you
what
just
the
we just
actual
blasted
one.
it outside and it came inside. It looked really good, and that saved us because we wouldn't have had. I think he flew out early in that morning. We don't think we would have
Mhm.
had anything with him. And that was a really good idea because I remember we were being pretty nervous about that one. But Echoes was a beast of a movie, and it was like I think we just we
That
bit
one we
off
had
more than we
the
could chew. It's fantastic. Like I literally just watched it. It's absolutely fantastic.
we had the
But
best rap party on that one too. We had like a it was almost like a backyard like cookout
yeah.
because it was the sun had come up after we filmed the last one. We had, done our celebratory everything. We were playing like cornhole and stuff until like 1 and then just packed up and left.
Yeah, that was a good one. I was cooked on that one. I think I think me and Stu just went took a nap and like
Power
didn't wake
nap.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a good one. Then Shapeshifter was the smoothest out of all of them. And this was the first time we shot outside of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only stuff that was really crazy what happened on the first night when we couldn't get the cars and my truck specifically up this driveway. So you want to talk about how I almost drove my truck off the edge and almost ran you over, I think, at the same time.
Yeah. So, the Airbnb has this thing where they like don't show you the driveways of any of the places, specifically of the ones that should show you the driveways. Like we've had some that look like they have a pretty big driveway. Turns out they have like a one car driveway. So then we have to like have people park at Lowe's Foods and shuttle them over. And then for this one specifically, it was on like a 12-degree incline. Like it was ridiculous. There was concrete or pavement for a little bit and then gravel. It went gravel, pavement, gravel, right? So there's like one little stretch where you had like decent traction, and we showed up at night. We were running a little bit behind, and we had my car and Brendan's truck. And my car, I failed to make it up the first like two times until we figured out the strategy is just fuck it, slam on the gas, hit that pavement as quick as you can, and just shoot up this hill. And then the truck had all the gear and everything in it, so the weight for that one became an issue. Also because Brendan arrived when we were already there, and we didn't really know he was there till he called me and said, "I'm stuck." And he was digging a hole with the tires there just because he had more stuff in the back of his vehicle than any of the rest. So we were like trying to move it back, and there's this like steep fall off right there on the road there that the truck almost went down at one point, and it started rolling without him doing anything at one point that almost took me out. That one was a little stressful, and it got to the point where I had to hop in the truck for you, and I was like, all right, trust me with your vehicle and all of the gear. I got it, and I just slam it up the up the hill. As soon as we got the truck up, I don't think it moved for the rest of the week. I think we took everybody else's car first,
Yeah,
just
the
because.
truck that I have is 25 years old. It is a V8 and it is not four-wheel drive. It is front-wheel drive. It's a crazy truck because that should have never been engineered. Um, and so when you put a lot of weight in the back, my tires, I don't think I've ever changed the tires on that. Maybe rotated them once. So there's no thread on it. And it just, those tires spin, man. You got to be going quick to get it up there. But we got it up. And honestly, that was like the craziest thing in there. I don't think there's anything else with Shapeshifter. It was smooth, man. We got it all the way done. All the special effects were done where it needed to go. We had pickleback bets on when we'd wrap, and we were all close on like 2 o'clock on, the last day. We had like a little jacuzzi party and stuff. Outside of I think the bear ripping apart the trash can was the only thing that we had.
Yeah, that was on the day we left too. We found out that a bear had tore everything up. The homeowners were actually really chill about it, and we're like, yeah, you guys can just leave it, like we'll deal with it. And so we got like the bulk of things, but they were like, yeah, that happens all the time, no worries.
I don't think there's anything. Is there anything else in this one, man?
We
What a
had
great shoot.
there was like the nearest town was like 40 minutes away, which was like kind of a little like backtrack in our making sure that we're close enough to civilization. That was the only thing that kind of sucked was like if we had to go I remember specifically wardrobe. We had ran out of some of the stuff. We had to go find stuff that kind of matched.
I mean
Um,
that, and we were like on the side of a mountain that had like almost like a 90-degree incline to do is like gnarly. I
and a
remember like
leaking sewage tank.
yeah, the sewage is leaking, but like the mountain was like a super steep incline. Like it was crazy steep incline. And like carrying going down there and coming back with the camera, and with the
Evil.
actors, like my legs were getting a workout.
And
Because I
we're
had to
having to
run up
like
and
run
down.
on it like it's flat, so we're not like looking dumb, like kind of
Yeah,
trying
it
to run
was.
like this.
But I don't think there's anything else in there that was like crazy. I mean, that's just to
It's pretty
go
chill.
from like Girl in Cabin 13 to what we just did with the shapeshifters, like absolutely insane.
This
Like
was the
it's
first time we utilized somebody else as a PA. We had Andrew doing stuff, and he made Grace think that he was a serial killer because he took her to the wrong Airbnb
yeah, he also got a ticket.
and a speeding ticket,
He
taking up
had
some
to
of the
use transportation and he got a ticket and he also went to the wrong location.
really really good job.
Yeah, so I mean he's like we got Dylan on board and ready to go. Then we got Tag in. Now we're with Andrew. So there's a process to the madness. So I mean that's pretty much it. I think we've tried to give you as much tips as possible. Really, in a nutshell, I would say a lot of it comes from experience. So we kind of know the hard scenes and I make it very clear, what scenes are hard, and we try and schedule them. I always try and schedule the first 2 days are easy stuff. Get into it. Day three, four, five, six, heavy stuff in the last 2 days because you're going to be tired. You're not going to make the best decisions. There's always going to be that scene that you kick down the end of the road. Try and identify those and get those done as quickly as possible. But do you have any closing tips since you've done a ton of these movies on anything you would do to someone who's looking to do their first low budget film?
Yeah, something that I learned not even from a DBS one, it's something that we've talked about a few times, is I did a short with your help. Just, put yourself out there, try all kinds of different things, fuck up as often as you can because that's the only way that you learn the correct way to do things eventually. I'm lucky I have, you as a mentor throughout this whole process, which has been really nice in identifying those learning experiences faster. Uh, and yeah, I used to say that film's like 80% luck, but I think the more we do this and the more I think about that, I think it's just, as I say, it's the preparation meeting opportunity. We get lucky in a lot of these things, but I think it really just comes down to like we've been through some shit before. So, just stay on your toes, put yourself out there, and make plenty of mistakes.
I mean, I think you bring a really good point, and I think a lot of people are like, all right, well, you have to be good, or you have to have really good shots, or you have to have these really good scenes to make a good movie. I would say it's the opposite. I think it's just we've done so much stuff, we just don't do the dumb stuff anymore. We just don't. And it's like we're getting to the point where we're just eliminating all the problems and all the dumb stuff. And like when a problem does arise, we're like, all right, let's not do that ever again. And we just don't do that. And I think honestly, like looking back on it now after just having this conversation, I don't know if we're getting better as much as we're just not doing dumb stuff. And I think that's probably half the battle, and it comes with experience, but you only experience.
Eliminate the dumb shit, get good later.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, Dylan, as always, appreciate you. Looking forward to the next shoot. It should be a good one. Other than that, man, as always, like I couldn't have done it without you. These shoots have been perpetually better. Knock on wood with the next one. But I mean,
For
we're
sure.
getting to a point now where we can start to focus on the details. And that's really how you make a good movie. So, appreciate you guys. Appreciate you listening. Hopefully, we gave you a couple tidbits here. But once again, it comes down to just doing these things. I think that you can listen to us all the time. You can watch as many YouTube videos as you want, but until you're actually doing this stuff, until you're into the grind, until you're into the the darkness, the heart of darkness that is what's making movies, you won't know. So we'll talk to you soon. See you later.